Keegan, the name itself, echoes through English football history like a chant that never fades. He wasn't just a player, he was a symbol of passion, energy, and the beautiful chaos that defines the game. From the pitches of Scunthorpe to the grand stage of Liverpool and the roar of Wembley, Keegan became a hero of the people. His determination, his heart-on-sleeve attitude, and his relentless drive made him one of the most loved figures in football. Fans adored his charisma. Rivals respected his work ethic, and when he stepped away from the pitch, many believed his story had already been written, one of triumph, emotion, and legacy. But as the years went by, Kevin Keegan took on a new role, one that would test him in ways no match ever could, that of a football pundit. On television screens, in interviews, and across media platforms, he became a voice of reason, honesty, and insight. His opinions carried weight because they came from experience, from someone who had lived and breathed every moment of the game. People trusted Keegan to tell it like it is, and he did. Sometimes too much, because while football may be built on passion, punditry is built on perception. Every word, every sentence, every opinion gets dissected, debated, and twisted. And Kevin Keegan, the man who always wore his heart on his sleeve, soon found himself standing in a storm of words, a storm he never intended to create. His commentary style, emotional and unfiltered, began to spark conversations far beyond the studio. Fans loved his authenticity, but critics started calling him outdated, out of touch, even controversial. Still, Keegan refused to change. Say it as you see it, that was always his way. But in today's football media landscape, where one wrong phrase can set social media ablaze, that honesty came at a cost. Recently, a new wave of controversy hit a single remark, said with the same confidence and sincerity he's always had, exploded into headlines and debates across the football world. Suddenly, Kevin Keegan wasn't being talked about for his achievements, but for his opinions. The very passion that made him beloved was now painting him as divisive. Fans who grew up idolizing him felt conflicted. Some defended him fiercely, while others distanced themselves, unsure how to interpret his words. TV networks hesitated, pundits debated, and journalists pounced. What was once a voice of warmth becoming a subject of scrutiny. The laughter, the energy, the charm, all of it now overshadowed by a sentence, a thought, a belief that many believe crossed a line. But here's the thing, Kevin Keegan has never been one to play safe. From the days of fighting for his place at Liverpool to his emotional outbursts as Newcastle manager, he's always been raw and real. That's what made him different. That's what made him human. So when controversy came knocking, he faced it the only way he knew how, by standing firm, unapologetic, and true to himself. He may have stirred the pot, but perhaps, deep down, that's exactly what the game needs. Voices that don't hide behind the corporate polish. Voices that remind us football is not just a business, but a game of emotion. Still, questions remain. Has Kevin Keegan gone too far this time? Has his truth-telling turned against him in a world that demands perfection from imperfection? Or is this just another misunderstood moment from a man who's always spoken from the heart? One thing's certain, Kevin Keegan's punditry career has entered its most controversial chapter yet. What happens next may redefine how the world remembers him. Not just as a legend on the pitch, but as a man unafraid to stand alone in a world where every word can make or break a legacy. Just as a legend on the pitch, but as a man unafraid to stand alone in a world where every word can make or break a legacy. That's exactly what Kevin Keegan has always been. His football journey was never about playing it safe. From the very beginning, he fought for every inch. Born in Doncaster, South Yorkshire in 1951, Keegan wasn't a prodigy, blessed with natural elegance. He was a worker, a fighter, a man who made up for what he lacked in flair with endless passion and determination. He wasn't afraid to challenge trends, question tactics, or call out what he saw as performative commentary. Still, he remained respected until late 2023, when one comment during a speaking engagement set off a storm that would dominate headlines for weeks. In late 2023, Keegan said something that many interpreted as outdated and controversial. He stated that he had a problem with female pundits discussing the England men's team, explaining that he didn't believe they had the same experience as men. Within hours, the remarks spread like wildfire across social media and news outlets. Some saw it as a reflection of old-fashioned thinking. Others saw it as an honest, if clumsy, expression of traditional football views. For Keegan, it became the most defining controversy of his post-football career, one that threatened to overshadow decades of contribution to the sport he loved. The backlash was immediate. Fans, pundits, and organisations criticised his statement, calling it dismissive and tone-deaf in an era striving for equality and inclusivity. Yet, not everyone turned against him. Two respected figures, TalkSport host Alan Brazil and former England international Chris Waddle, publicly defended Keegan, saying his comments were misunderstood and taken out of context. They argued that Keegan didn't intend to discredit women's knowledge of football, but was instead highlighting a generational difference in perspective. Still, the damage was done. His reputation as the emotional, outspoken voice of football was once again under fire. And just like that, Keegan, the same man who once captivated millions with his footballing brilliance and heartfelt passion, found himself in the eye of yet another storm. Only this time, it wasn't about goals or trophies, but about words and opinions in a world far less forgiving than the football pitches he once ruled. Whether one agrees with him or not, one truth remains. Keegan has always been a man of emotion, honesty, and conviction, and even now, decades after his playing days, those very traits continue to define him, for better or for worse. Keegan's story isn't just one of goals, trophies, or controversies. It's the story of a man who lived football with every beat of his heart. Through every triumph and every storm, one thing has never changed: his passion for the game. Yes, he's had moments that sparked debate. Yes, he's said things that divided opinion. But beneath all the headlines, there's still the same man who fought his way from Scunthorpe to the very top of world football. The man who inspired a generation to believe that hard work, courage, and heart could take you anywhere. His honesty, though sometimes misunderstood, has always come from love for the sport, for the fans, and for the truth as he sees it. In a world where many speak safely, Keegan speaks sincerely, and that, perhaps, is why he still matters. From the electric roar of Anfield to the emotional rollercoaster of St James's Park, from Ballon d'Or triumphs to punditry firestorms, Keegan's legacy has never been ordinary. It's been real, imperfect, passionate, human. Even in controversy, there's something undeniably authentic about him, a reminder that football isn't played by flawless people, but by those brave enough to care deeply. His words may have caused friction, but they also prove that his fire still burns bright, even decades after hanging up his boots. Keegan will forever be remembered as more than a footballer. He's an emotion, a heartbeat of English football history, and while debates about his opinions may fade with time, the memories of his dazzling runs, his unstoppable drive, and his unfiltered honesty will always remain. Because when all is said and done, legends aren't defined by perfection, they're defined by passion, and few have ever embodied that better than Keegan. If you enjoyed this story of football's most emotional icon, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. Tell us what you think about Keegan. Was he misunderstood or simply too honest for today's game? And if you'd like to see us cover another football legend, feel free to drop your suggestions in the comments, because every legend has a story and we're here to tell them all.
Glasgow, 1959. The Clyde shipyards clang like a heartbeat, and the tenements of Govan echo with the shouts of kids playing football in the street. Into this gritty symphony arrives Alan Brazil, born June 15th in a city that breeds the game. He's barely out of nappies when a ball becomes an extension of his left foot. By 13, he's at Celtic Boys Club, a prodigy in green and white hoops, dreaming of the first team, of Ibrox, of everything. But in the shadows of that clubhouse lurks Jim Torbett, the manager with a smile to wide and hands to lingering. One afternoon, one incident, one moment Brazil will lock away for 23 years. The camera doesn't flinch. It just keeps rolling. Cut to 1977. Portman Road, Ipswich. A teenage Brazil steps off the train from Glasgow. £25,000 transfer fee in Bobby Robson's pocket. He's raw, hungry, and already talking like he owns the place. 6 seasons, 210 appearances, 80 goals. The numbers are cold, but the footage is fire. Brazil ghosting past defenders, leathering volleys into the top corner, celebrating with a fist pump that says, "That's forgiven." The 1980-81 UEFA Cup campaign is pure cinema. First leg against Aris Salonika, he slots the opener. Quarter-finals, Saint-Étienne, he nods in the winner. The final against AZ Alkmaar at Portman Road, 2 goals. One a screamer from 25 yards that kisses the crossbar on its way in. The trophy lift under Suffolk floodlights is the stuff of boyhood posters. A year later, he's voted Ipswich Town Player of the Year. The world is watching. Tottenham come calling in 1983, £425,000. White Hart Lane, another stage. The 1983-80 for UEFA Cup run is less heralded, but no less sweet. Brazil starts both legs of the final against Anderlecht, wins on penalties, claims his second European medal. Scotland caps follow 13 in total, including the 1982 World Cup in Spain, where he lines up against Brazil the country, not the surname, and nearly nicks a goal. At 27, he's at his peak, strong, sharp, swaggering. Then the back goes dot. It starts as a niggle, then a stab, then a scream. Discs disintegrate like wet paper. Acupuncture in Harley Street, traction in a Suffolk clinic, praise in a Glasgow chapel nothing holds. By 1986, the verdict is final. Retire or risk paralysis. The camera lingers on an empty locker, studs still muddy, nameplate already peeling. Overnight, the striker becomes the unemployed father with a mortgage and 2 young kids. Identity gone. Income gone. The reel spins into silence. Ipswich High Street, 1987. The black at a pub, neon snake curling above the door. Brazil's name on the lease, his face on the flyers. Locals pile in for pints and autographs, singing "Ally, Ally" until closing time. 18 months later, the brewery padlocks the doors. Whitbread, he says, bled him dry with rent hikes and stock demands. He admits he was never behind the bar anyway, already chasing television gigs. Bankruptcy papers are signed in a solicitor's office that smells of damp paper and defeat. The camera zooms in on the final demand letter. Red ink screaming. Rock bottom is a strange place to find a microphone. A guest slot on GMTV talking transfers over cornflakes. A CEO commentary on Sky where his Glaswegian growl cuts through the polite chatter. A late-night phone-in on Talk Radio UK where callers ring to argue about Rangers, and he argues back louder. January 2000, TalkSport launches, and Alan Brazil is handed the breakfast slot alongside Mike Parry. No script, no filter, just 2 mates arguing over racing results and whether gas is finished. Ratings explode. The boozy persona half-truth, half-caricature becomes the brand. Listeners tune in at 6:30 am to hear him slur, morning, punters and mean it. March 2004, Cheltenham Festival. 3 days of Guinness, Damples, and glory. Monday morning, the TalkSport studio is empty. Producers panic. Listeners flood the switchboard. Where's Brazil? He's asleep in a Cotswolds hotel. Phone of the hook. Tie still knotted from Saturday. Sacked on the spot. The press feasts. Brazil's booze shame. 3 weeks later. Hundreds of emails later. The station caves. He's back 5. Oh, fine, per no show written into the contract like a badge of honor. The rebellion is now official merchandise. The camera catches him strolling into the studio, sunglasses on, grinning like a schoolboy who's dodged attention, but the darkest reel is still in the can. Celtic Boys Club, early 1970s. Jim Torbett, the manager with the clipboard and the secrets. One afternoon, one incident. Brazil 13 and trusting. He buries it deep, plays on, scores goals, wins medals. The memory festers. 1996. The trial. Glasgow Sheriff Court. Brazil walks in, suit to tight, voice steady, eyes burning. He testifies. Torbet gets 2 years for shameless indecency with 3 boys. Brazil's words crack the dam. More victims step forward in 2018, 2023. Another trial, another sentence, another cell door slamming. In a 2004 radio confessional, he says it happened once, that he was strong enough never to return. The rage still crackles. If it was one of my kids, I'd kill the bastard. The camera holds on his clenched fist, knuckles white, wedding ring glinting, that armor becomes the brand. On air, he's the dinosaur who doesn't get depression. Who scoffs at Robin Williams' suicide in 2014. Who says leaving kids behind is diabolical, while CEO host Brian Moore pleads for compassion. Backlash is instant. Twitter storms, petitions, TalkSport apologies issued in his name, but never by him. Listeners either switch off in disgust or in closure, drawn to the unpolished truth of a man who survived by refusing to bend. Another day, another controversy. Women's football. CEO host Shabana Hearn mentions Manchester United's plans to boost the women's team. Brazil shrugs. Nobody round the world's bothered. Hearn fires back. You're a proper dinosaur your granddaughter plays. The clip goes viral. Millions of views. TalkSport stands firm, lets the debate rage. Brazil doesn't apologize. He doubles down. The armor thickens. The autobiography sums it up. Only here for a visit. A life lived to the full. From parkit predator to Portman Road prince. From bankrupt publican to breakfast table provocateur. Alan Brazil keeps swinging. The spine is shot. The pub is gone. The secret is out. Yet every weekday at 6:30 a.m. the red light blinks. And he's their scar tissue. And all reminding a nation that some voices are forged in fire, not focus groups. The camera pulls back. A Glasgow tenement. A Suffolk pub. A London studio. All connected by one man who refused to stay down. His story isn't linear. It's a series of crashes and comebacks. The UEFA Cups gleam in the cabinet. But the real trophies are the mornings he drags himself to the MIC after another Cheltenham bender. The courtroom where he faced his abuser. The bankruptcy hearing where he signed away the pub but not his name. He's the voice for the bloke in the pub who's sick of being told what to think. The granddad who still calls it the wireless. The punter who bets on the horses because life's a gamble anyway. Love him or loathe him. You can't ignore him. The reel keeps spinning. The voice keeps crackling. And Alan Brazil scarred. Stubborn, and still standing remains the last unfiltered roar of a vanishing Britain.
Brian Howard Clough emerged as one of English football's most enigmatic and triumphant personalities, a man whose life story reads like a gripping novel filled with soaring highs, crushing lows, and an unyielding spirit that captivated fans and foes alike. Born on March 21, 1935, in the industrial heartland of Middlesbrough in the North Riding of Yorkshire, Clough was the 6th child in a bustling family of 9 siblings. His father worked initially in a sweet shop before rising to become a sugar boiler and then a manager, providing a modest but stable home amid the post-Depression era's challenges. Tragedy struck early when his eldest sister, Elizabeth, succumbed to septicemia at just 3 years old in 1927, a loss that lingered in the family's memory. Yet Clough often reminisced about his childhood as a slice of paradise, a chaotic yet idyllic world where the streets buzzed with energy and family bonds ran deep. He credited his mother, a tireless homemaker, for instilling in him the values of hard work and resilience, qualities that would define his career. Everything good about me came from those early days, he'd say, though he'd cheekily add that his fondness for a drink might have been the one exception. School, however, was never Clough's forte. Attending Martin Grove Secondary Modern after failing the 11+ exam, a rite of passage that sorted British children into grammar or secondary modern schools, he prioritised sports over studies. Cricket was his first love, outshining even football in his affections, but his natural athleticism shone through regardless. He rose to become head boy, a testament to his emerging leadership, yet left school at 15 in 1950 without any formal qualifications. The real world beckoned, and Clough took a job at Imperial Chemical Industries, ICI, a massive chemical company that employed much of the local workforce. It was grunt work, but it built his character. Then came national service, a mandatory 2-year stint in the Royal Air Force Regiment. From 1953 to 1955, stationed away from home, he honed discipline, teamwork, and a sharp sense of command, skills that would later translate seamlessly to the football pitch and dugout. During this time, he played amateur football for Billingham Synthonia, netting 3 goals in 4 appearances, hinting at the scoring prowess to come. Clough's professional playing career ignited like a firework, bursting with goals and glory but fizzling out far too soon due to misfortune. Discovered while in the RAF, he signed for his hometown club, Middlesbrough, debuting in the 1955-56 season. As a striker, he was a revelation, clinical, instinctive and relentless. Over 222 league games, he hammered home 204 goals, including seasons where he breached the 40-goal mark multiple times. He led the Division II scoring charts in 1958-59 and 1959-60, earning a reputation as one of the most lethal finishers in the game. Yet beneath the success simmered discontent. Clough clashed with teammates, accusing some of match-fixing and betting against the team, which strained locker room dynamics. He submitted multiple transfer requests, frustrated by a leaky defense that squandered his efforts. After an infamous 6-6 draw, he reportedly quipped in exasperation about how many goals they needed to score just to secure a win. It was during this period that he crossed paths with Peter Taylor, a goalkeeper who would become his lifelong collaborator in management. Internationally, Clough's talents earned him 2 caps for England in 1959 against Wales and Sweden, though he failed to score, a rare blank in his otherwise prolific record. In July 1961, his persistence paid off with a $55,000 move to Sunderland, where he continued his scoring spree, bagging 63 goals in 74 matches, including 34 in the 1961-62 campaign alone. Life seemed golden, but disaster struck on Boxing Day 1962 during a match against Bury. Colliding with the opposing goalkeeper, Clough suffered a devastating knee injury, tearing his medial and cruciate ligaments. At just 27, his playing days were effectively over, though he attempted a comeback 2 years later, managing only 3 more appearances before retiring at 29. His goals per game ratio of 0.916 remains the highest among English players with over 200 league goals, cementing his status as an efficient marksman whose career was tragically curtailed. The injury not only ended his playing ambitions, but also sowed seeds of bitterness, channeling his energies toward coaching. Transitioning to management felt like a natural evolution for Clough, whose charisma and tactical acumen were evident even as a player. He started coaching Sunderland's youth team before landing his first managerial role at Hartlepool United, now Hartlepool United, in October 1965, at the tender age of 30, making him the youngest boss in the Football League. He immediately brought in Peter Taylor as his assistant, forging a partnership that would redefine English football. Hartlepool were a struggling 4th Division side, teetering on financial ruin, but Clough and Taylor turned things around, finishing 8th in 1966-67. They unearthed talents like John McGovern and Les Green, players who'd follow them to greater heights. This early success showcased Clough's motivational flair. He was strict yet paternal, creating a family-like atmosphere that inspired loyalty. In June 1967, the duo moved to Derby County, a 2nd Division club languishing in mediocrity. Clough's impact was seismic. They clinched promotion as champions in 1968-69, then stunned the football world by winning the 1st Division title in 1971-72, Derby's first ever league crown. They even reached the European Cup semi-finals in 1973, only to fall amid controversial refereeing against Juventus. Clough's outspoken nature, however, bred conflict. He publicly criticized Chairman Sam Longson and the FA, leading to their resignation on October 15, 1973, after a boardroom power struggle. Fans protested, but the split was irreversible. A brief, ill-fated spell at Brighton and Hove Albion followed in November 1973, without Taylor initially. Clough won just 12 of 32 games, suffering humiliating defeats like an 8-2 thrashing by Bristol Rovers and a 4-0 FA Cup loss to non-league Walton and Hersham. He departed in July 1974, but controversy peaked with his next move, succeeding Don Revie at Leeds United, a powerhouse fresh off a title win. Without Taylor, Clough lasted a mere 44 days, from July to September 1974. He alienated the squad from day one, reportedly telling them to toss their medals in the bin because they'd been won by cheating under Revie. Wins were scarce, 1 in 6 games, and player revolts, led by figures like Johnny Giles, forced his sacking. This chaotic episode inspired the 2009 film The Damned United, though Clough's family decried its inaccuracies. Redemption arrived at Nottingham Forest in January 1975, rejoining Taylor in 1976. Clough transformed a mid-table 2nd Division outfit into legends. Promotion came in 1977, followed by the 1st Division title in 1978, an unprecedented leap. The pinnacle, back-to-back European Cup triumphs in 1979, beating Malmo 1-0. and 1980, edging Hamburg 1-0, feats unmatched by any English club since. Forest also claimed 4 League Cups, 1978, 1979, 1989, 1990, and reached the 1991 FA Cup final, losing to Tottenham. Clough's signings, like Trevor Francis, Britain's first $1 million player, and Kenny Burns were masterstrokes, often credited to Taylor's scouting eye. Their bond was symbiotic. Clough the motivator, Taylor the tactician, yet cracks appeared. Taylor's 1980 book, With Clough, by Taylor rankled Clough for not consulting him, and tensions boiled over when Taylor, after retiring in 1982, returned to Derby and signed Forest's John Robertson without notice. The pair never spoke again, a rift unresolved until Taylor's death in October 1990, while on holiday in Mallorca. Amid these professional peaks, Clough's personal demons loomed large. His battle with alcohol, which began as social indulgence in the 1970s, escalated into dependency under the weight of managerial pressures. What started as a pint to unwind morphed into a crutch, affecting his health, relationships, and later performances. Friends like Duncan Hamilton noted how his flamboyant persona masked deeper issues. In an era when mental health and addiction were taboo, support was limited. Clough's family, wife Barbara, whom he married in 1959, and children, including son Nigel, who became a footballer and manager, stood by him, but the toll was evident. By the 1990s, his drinking contributed to liver failure, necessitating a transplant in January 2003. Retirement came in May 1993 after Forest's relegation from the nascent Premier League, ending 18 years at the helm. Health woes compounded in his later years. Diagnosed with stomach cancer, an aggressive disease potentially linked to his lifestyle, Clough fought valiantly but succumbed on September 20, 2004, at Derby City Hospital. Aged 69, his passing united rivals, fans from Derby and Nottingham Forest, mourned together, with thousands attending a memorial at Derby's Pride Park Stadium. Tributes poured in, reflecting a man whose wit, like his famous quip, "I wouldn't say I was the best manager in the business, but I was in the top one," endeared him to many. Clough's legacy endures as a transformative force in football. Inducted into the English Football Hall of Fame in 2002, he received the Freedom of the City from both Derby 1993 and Nottingham 2003. Nottingham Forest honoured him by naming their largest stand the Brian Clough Stand, while statues of him and Taylor stand in Derby, unveiled 2010, and Nottingham 2008. The Brian Clough Trophy is contested annually between his two iconic clubs. Ranked among the greatest managers by ESPN and France Football, his influence extends beyond trophies to the human connections he forged. He championed fair play, once ordering a player to miss a penalty after an unfair goal, and his charitable acts, like sharing cake with fans, symbolized his bond with supporters. Despite controversies, his England snub, boardroom battles, and personal failings, Clough remains a beloved icon, a reminder that genius often walks hand in hand with imperfection. His story, from Middlesbrough lad to European conqueror, inspires generations, proving that with grit and guile one can defy the odds and etch an indelible mark.
1996, and they're holding him to it for the moment. But Neville looks less than happy with his lot these days.
Neville Southall's story is one of grit, transformation and triumph, from a modest upbringing to becoming one of football's most revered goalkeepers. His life off the pitch, however, has also been marked by complex personal struggles, now brought into sharper focus by revelations from his daughter. Born in the coastal town of Llandudno, Wales, Southall's early years were a far cry from the glitz of professional football. Raised in a working-class family as the middle child of 3 brothers, he grew up in a household grounded by his parents, Fred and Rose. From an early age, football captured his imagination. Playing for his school and the local side Llandudno, Swifts, often alongside future Welsh international Joey Jones, he began to develop the instinctive shot-stopping ability that would later define his career. Despite playing for a team that often struggled, the adversity forged his resilience and unwavering commitment to the game. School life at Ysgol John Bright failed to hold his interest. Southall left at 16 with no qualifications, dreaming not of football stardom, but of becoming a postman, a reflection of his modest ambitions and lack of faith in a professional sporting future. He cycled through various jobs, binman, waiter and hod carrier, working far from the glamour of stadiums and fans. His footballing journey in these years was riddled with disappointment, including unsuccessful trials at Wrexham, Crewe Alexandra, and Bolton Wanderers. But his passion for the game never faltered. By 15, he was turning out for Llandudno Town, before moving to Bangor City. There, Financial instability and intense competition for the goalkeeper's position added further hurdles. Still, he persevered, working his way through semi-professional clubs like Conwy United and Winsford United. It was at Winsford where Southall's potential began to shine. He won the Cheshire Senior Cup and was named Player of the Year, achievements that hinted at greater things to come. His rising profile soon attracted attention. Both Barry and Wigan, Athletic expressed interest, but it was Barry who secured his signature, thanks to manager Dave Connor's persuasion. Southall joined for a fee of $6,000 with additional payments tied to his future progress, though Connor was replaced by Jim. Early before the 1980-81 season began, Southall's potential was clear. As the chosen successor to long-serving keeper John Forrest, he benefited immensely from specialised coaching under Wolf McGuinness. His debut for Barry came against Wigan, the club he might have joined, ending in a poetic 2-1 win. The season proved a rollercoaster for the club, mixing inconsistency in the 4th Division with success in cup competitions. Barry reached the 3rd round of the FA Cup and scored a memorable League Cup victory over Newcastle United. Southall featured in 44 domestic matches that season, kept 15 clean sheets, and conceded just 50 goals, a remarkable feat for a young keeper. He was duly honoured with both Player of the Year and Young Player of the Year awards at the club. Southall's big break arrived in 1981, when Everton's manager Howard Kendall signed him for $150,000. Despite facing stiff competition for the starting spot, his debut against Ipswich Town marked the beginning of a transformative chapter in both his career and Everton's history. Early challenges included a humiliating 5-0 loss to Liverpool and a loan spell at Port Vale, but his grit and talent eventually cemented his place as Everton's number 1. Under Kendall, Southall became the backbone of an Everton side that dominated English football in the mid-1980s. The 1983-84 season ended with an FA Cup triumph, followed by a golden 1984-85 campaign where Everton won the First Division by a record margin and lifted the European Cup Winners' Cup. Southall's performances, especially a crucial save against Tottenham, proved pivotal. However, the Heysel Stadium disaster and subsequent ban on English clubs from European competitions halted their momentum on the continental stage. Domestically, though, success continued, including Charity Shield victories that cemented Southall's status as a club legend. The late 80s and early 90s brought turbulence to Everton, with frequent managerial changes and erratic form. But Southall remained a constant, a symbol of the club's spirit, especially in the fraught 1993-94 season when Everton narrowly avoided relegation. He remained committed despite personal controversies and team instability. His resilience paid off in the 1994-95 season when Everton, under Joe Royle, won the FA Cup. Southall's performance in the final against Manchester United was a career highlight. As the 1990s progressed, his role shifted amid squad changes. He spent time sidelined, went on loan, and faced the brutal realities of football's shifting landscape. Yet his dedication to Everton never wavered. A testimonial match and the awarding of an MBE highlighted the respect he had earned. Internationally, Southall debuted for Wales in 1982 and quickly became a cornerstone of the national side. Though his career coincided with Wales's repeated near misses in major tournament qualifications, Southall's brilliance stood out. The 1986 World Cup and Euro 1988 qualifiers saw narrow failures. He faced elite teams like the Netherlands and West Germany in the 1990 qualifiers, but often single-handedly kept Wales competitive. A highlight came during the Euro 1992 qualifiers with a famous win over world champions Germany. The 1994 World Cup campaign was perhaps Wales' best shot, but a decisive loss to Romania dashed their hopes, with tragedy adding further pain in the aftermath. Though Wales never qualified for a major tournament during his tenure, Southall's longevity and leadership were unmatched. He eventually took on a player-coach role as the team continued to struggle for consistency. His record number of caps stood as a testament to his enduring value to the national team. Away from the pitch, Southall's personal life was equally eventful. He married Errol Williams in 1980 and had a daughter, Samantha, in 1987. Their relationship, however, turned bitterly public when Southall sued his daughter at age 19 to recover $55,000 worth of memorabilia, including his FA Cup medal, MBE, and international caps, that he had gifted her at age 10. A judge ordered Samantha to return the items and pay $6,000 in legal costs. Tearfully, the young law student said, "I idolized my dad. I don't know how I'll pay the costs." His marriage ended after nearly 2 decades, reportedly due to affairs. Later, he found new companionship with Emma, an aromatherapist. Together, they pursued foster parenting, revealing a nurturing and introspective side of Southall that contrasted sharply with his stern, on-pitch persona. Known for being quiet and reserved, and for his abstinence from alcohol, Southall was often viewed as a loner, an image far removed from the dominant figure who commanded the penalty box. In 2012, his candid autobiography, The Bin Man Chronicles, became one of the year's best-selling football books. Through it, readers gained insight into the mind of a complex, driven, and deeply reflective man who rose from humble beginnings to the top of the football world. After hanging up his gloves, Southall turned to education. He became a teaching assistant in Blaenau Gwent, focusing on equipping young people with job-seeking and soft skills. His dedication to mentoring and community work reflects the depth of his character and his commitment to making a difference. Beyond football, Neville Southall's journey is one of transformation, tenacity, and legacy. From the working-class streets of North Wales to the heights of European football, and from personal hardships to public redemption, his story continues to inspire, even as it evolves into unexpected chapters.